Cromwell, as the Protectorate, wanted to enact a reformation of manners by improving moral behaviour, and this came under a series of agreements. So the first was the first Protectorate Parliament between 1654 and 55. So 84 ordinances or agreements were issued pertaining to moral behaviour and improving local government and infrastructure. Bear baiting and cockfighting were banned. It was seen to be immoral behaviour that encouraged criminality. Postal services were improved, so communication between parliamentary members was much quicker and more efficient. The maintenance of roads was prioritised as well for transport of goods as well as transport of notifications between MPs and other significant individuals. And laws were passed to prohibit blasphemy and drunkenness. However, Cromwell visibly took a preference for his military associates, meant he isolated many MPs who then refused to recognise the instrument of government, and this resolved in Cromwell dissolving the Parliament in January 1655. So effectively, not really much has changed with the leadership, just the face of the leadership, because obviously Cromwell's effectively doing the same thing as what the monarchy did in dissolving Parliament. Now, the Major Generals, Cromwell had always relied on the support of the military to maintain himself in power, but the last years of the Protectorate were marked by the threat of royalism and the imposition of military government. And this was particularly seen in the Penruddocks Rising in 1655, which is a royalist rising in Wiltshire. And though that was defeated, Cromwell decided it showed greater control of the provinces was actually needed. So in reaction to the rising, he imposed centralised military rule over the entire country. And he did that by dividing the country up into 11 districts, a bit like we have now in electoral campaigns for constituencies. So the 11 districts all had one major general in charge of those areas to maintain law and order, and the major generals were to be assisted in their task by a new militia, and this was paid for by a 10% tax on the estates of royalists. So he's further kind of isolating the royalist supporters by taxing them for law and order to be imposed, which effectively is controlling them and not the rest of the population. However, the effectiveness of the Major Generals was mixed. In Lancashire, for example, Major General Worsley closed down 200 alehouses. That proved to be unpopular and particularly impacted on the tax revenue. In Lincolnshire, Major General Worley suppressed traditional entertainments, including stage plays and horse racing, which was deemed to be encouraging negative behaviour such as betting and criminality. Others neglected their duties and did not show much enthusiasm, and therefore there was inconsistencies across the 11 districts. The replacement of local elites by outsiders imposed by central government was also vastly unpopular, and the social standing of some of the major generals caused resentment from the gentry under their control because they were from lower classes. So that proved to be very controversial. Now, the second Protectorate Parliament, so the second Parliament called by Cromwell, were held in the summer of 1656, and the Council of State, his advisers, excluding 100 known opponents of one-man rule. So the one-man rule refers to Cromwell being in charge as opposed to a monarchy in conjunction with a parliament. This Parliament passed social reforms aimed at improving the efficiency of poor relief and providing more employment. So this is more social reform, and this contributed towards the humble petition and advice, which was a new constitutional document offered to Cromwell, which consisted of government by a king, changed to Lord Protector when Cromwell refused the crown, the Lords and Commons to govern with the Protector, so reinstating the House of Lords, provision for a hereditary succession, so who would succeed Cromwell, Parliament to control the army and officers of state to be approved by Parliament to ensure that the army is not controlled by one singular person, and regular elections and limited religious toleration. Now, by offering Cromwell the crown, his MPs were attempting to restore a system where the powers and privileges of the leader were established and known in order to kind of prevent a return to absolutism. So we have to kind of distinguish, why did Cromwell decline the crown? One, he was concerned over the reaction of the army. The army are anti-royalists. How would they respond should the crown be reinstated? The issue over religion, well, actually, the next in line to the throne are Catholics, and obviously he is keen to avoid that, given he himself is a Protestant, as is Ireton and the New Model Army. And also a number of commanders said they would not support Cromwell if he took the crown. So there's a lot of kind of peer pressure in there as well. And see if you can pick up on my spelling mistake there. But obviously there are other things that you can add that to that spider diagram should you wish to.